Gun fam, what's up? It's the Gun Brother. Thanks for tuning in. Going to go through Maryland's 5 firearms fallacies, faux pas, falsities, things that people just, for some reason, still tending to get wrong. Let's get into it. So the number one question I get for Maryland is, can I have an AR-15 in Maryland? The bottom line answer is yes. However, the Maryland throws out the term shall not be infringed for some reason and infringes all over it. And they have parameters in place for AR-15s, such as length parameters, overall length, heavy barrel, things like that. And I'm not gonna go into the specifics, that would make this video too long. I already did a video on that. I'll link it to this. Put the link up, as they say, right there. But the bottom line is yes, you can have it. There's just some things that we gotta go by to be in compliance with Maryland's unconstitutional laws for firearms. But the bottom line is yes, you can. Second most talked about thing, magazines. I don't understand why this is so hard for people to grasp for some reason. I mean, I get it. You want to be in compliance and you don't want to, overstep any boundaries, but it's fairly simple. And I'll illustrate it for you. I'll put up the code so that you can see it. Section 4-305, and then go down to B, and it says, a person may not manufacture, sell, offer for sale, purchase, receive, or transfer a detachable magazine that has a capacity of more than 10 rounds of ammunition for a firearm. It does not say you cannot possess it. And that was kind of like a backfire of the whole thing, because I think, if I remember correctly, back then they were going to grandfather anybody that already owned standard capacity magazines. They're not high capacity magazines. Those are standard capacity magazines. Anything limited would be a low capacity magazine. But anyway, they were going to grandfather the old magazines in, but since magazines aren't serialized, there's no way to tell when that magazine was acquired. So if it was bought before October 1st, 2013, it would have been still legal, but there's no way to tell when you bought it. So they left possess out. So you cannot do these things: manufacture, sell, offer for sale, purchase, receive, or transfer. Okay, so Marylanders, yeah, if you purchase a gun online, I think they'll take the magazines out. They can't, because they can't be transferred. They can't be sold. The transaction can't happen in the state of Maryland. So if you get them from somewhere else and bring them home, that's perfectly legal. You can possess them. Third thing I get asked about a lot, Maryland HQL. Yes, the Maryland HQL is still required to purchase firearms for Maryland residents in the state of Maryland. That is what the HQL is for, Handgun Qualification License. And that is what you have to have in Maryland as a resident to purchase firearms. If you're not a Maryland resident, Maryland HQL doesn't concern you at all. I get asked that a lot too. However, taking the HQL class by itself is kind of useless, because the concealed carry training encompasses the HQL training. So if you take the Maryland CCW class, that training encompasses the Maryland HQL training. And once you get your concealed carry, you can then go back into the portal and request your HQL free of charge. It had gotten struck down as unconstitutional, then they appealed it and upheld it, and I don't even know where it is right now, but it is still required. Can you carry in a Maryland restaurant or a place that serves alcohol? Answer to that is yes. So that was always in place. The newest Firearms Safety Act from Maryland in 2023 proposed that was in that bill, that you would no longer be able to carry in restaurants that sold alcohol to be served and consumed on the premises. However, they appealed several parts of that new Maryland or new Firearms Safety Act, and that part was struck down. So I understand where that confusion comes in. A lot of people were saying, oh, we can't carry in restaurants anymore, but that's not true. You can. That part of the bill was struck down, along with carrying guns on private property without signage saying that you could, and within 1,000 feet of a public demonstration. So those both got struck down, along with carrying in a restaurant that sells alcohol. So just clear that up. And finally, open carry. Can you open carry in Maryland? No. But there's a little explanation behind this. So originally, the Maryland wear and carry served as the permit for both security officers, security guards, Maryland Railroad Police, SPOs, things like that, and the civilians. Maryland wear and carry served as the same permit for both, meaning that permit allowed people to open carry. It was for open carry, but it was really intended for the officers. But if you had a Maryland wear and carry as a civilian, you could open carry as well. Then, when Heller happened, after the Heller decision, Maryland became shall issue. So everybody started to go get their permits. Of course, you got quadruple the number of permits, and that Maryland wear and carry also allowed them to open carry. But I don't think the state intended for that to be the case. They intended to be for officers. So with the Maryland Safety Act of 2023, they closed that loophole, and I can show you where it's worded. So if you see right here, subject to the subsection of a permit issued under the subtitle, shall restrict the wearing, carrying, and transporting of a handgun by a person to whom the permit is issued to wearing and carrying or transporting the handgun concealed from view. So that's how they worded and closed that loophole. So anybody that has the permit, it has to be concealed. And then if you scroll down to section C, the people that are not subject to that are security guard, correctional officer, railroad police officer, etc. So that's how they closed that loophole. So yes, you could previously, before it was October 1st, 2023, the Maryland wear and carry permit would allow you to also open carry, but they closed that loophole with the Firearms Safety Act of 2023, and that is no longer the case. So no open carry in Maryland, even if you do have the permit, unless you are one of the exempted categories. So those are the things that I hear the most that people get confusion on. If you have anything else, put it in the comments and we'll talk about it. As always, Gun Brothers out. I will talk to you guys next time.